You simply, we put the information in front of you, so we think a violation occurred. Here's up to you to make that final decision and judgment.
How does the police department do that?
They have access online, web-based. They'll have passwords. They'll have training.
So what's the burden then upon the police department?
Reviewing the tickets.
Just reviewing
the burden on the
It's
city.
like an email.
Yeah, the burden on the city, obviously, police to do the final determination on are we going to issue a ticket or not. So we set up business rules with the city. So if you want to see, all violations, but you know what, we don't want to see it if a squad car goes through with the lights on. We don't want to see if EMS goes through with the lights on. We don't want to see some of those things because that's wasting your time. So we will filter those things out. Funeral processions, you don't need to see that because those aren't violations. Those are, unfortunately, people involved in that. The other is the engineering. So the initial implementation, we work very closely with city engineering on the plans to actually implement the system. The adjudication process, so if you don't already have an administrative hearing process set up, typically the cities will set up some type of administrative hearing process. So, and that's really the extent of it. And then RedFlex will handle all violator calls, but again, sometimes the violators, yes, we've talked to you 10 times RedFlex, we audit it. We know you've called us 10 times, but now you want to talk to someone in the city, so then we refer to the point of contact within the city. So yes, there is city involvement and overhead involved in this.
So what activates these cameras? I mean, they're running 24/7 or they're activated?
No, it's twofold. One, depending on what kind of violations we're triggering, so whether it's red light or speed, we have detectors which will sense the presence of the vehicle, either one, when the light's red, or two, if they're traveling at least over the minimum threshold for the speed violation. So if that happens, then our cameras will be activated to capture that specific incident set. So if you have a vehicle going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, we're going to absolutely capture those still images and the full motion video with that to create an evidence set. If the light's been red for a second to half a second, those sensors will then detect the presence of the vehicle, a tenth of a second into the red phase, then it will capture the series of evidence also.
So even though you're only checking for the red light, if it's going too fast for that red light,
it can't do that. And that's your prerogative.
If you're monitoring speed.
It can do both red light and speed concurrently.
Yes.
Or it can do red light only.
My question was on the speed and the red light camera. Can the city program or have a program so we want excess of 10 miles over the speed limit? We don't want 5 miles.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We can get that, and then on a red light right-hand turn, is it excess of 3? Is it 3 miles an hour at the right-hand turn?
You can do either, if it's posted no turn on red, you can literally have people
have some of those here.
who stop and then proceed. Or usually you set the threshold pretty high. You don't want people who are really rolling around the corner. We'll set it at 20. Depending on that approach and the nature of traffic there, we don't want to have the system trigger if people aren't committing the violation. If that makes sense. We don't want it just triggering all day long just by people approaching that right turn pocket.
Two questions. Is there a warning sign put up?
By law, you have to
Yes.
have
By law?
hospital therapy.
And does RedFlex have anything to do with the control of how long the yellow is yellow?
By law, you also have to be at least a second over the MUTCE standard. So that's also by law, and we work with the engineers to make sure that that's compliant. You have to sign off on that before we will turn the camera on.
And just a further note in terms of the police department, when we're training the police department, we coach them and say, when you're viewing an image, imagine yourself there on that day. Were you there on that day and you saw this, what would you have done? Do you think this was an egregious driving behavior, or was it reasonable? So they have the opportunity to reject the violations that we send your way.
Do you take a flat fee then? Do the people that get a ticket pay you? The money goes to RedFlex in Arizona?
Actually, our lockbox is in Ohio. So we have, with the first program in Toledo,
And you take a flat fee from each ticket or a percentage, or how do you?
usually a fee per ticket, and then the more tickets that are written, we take less money from that, just to recoup our initial investment. So it's usually a sliding scale. So for the first couple hundred tickets, we'll take a certain number to recoup that. After that, more of the line share goes to the city. And again, we don't get paid unless you get paid. So if the police department rejects a safe right turn on red, yeah, we wouldn't have written that. You don't pay for that. If someone ultimately doesn't pay, we also have a collection process, and we will then send them through to a collection agency to go after the delinquent notices generally after 90 days. The city will determine, okay, do we want to go after these folks or not? So and again, that's all totally up to your discretion. Some cities will not proactively go after.
So this can go on the credit report for running a red light?
If you choose to go after them. Again, it's some cities do not proactively go after those delinquent notices, some do. Again, it's your program, you own it. So if you don't want to go after delinquent notices, that's your prerogative.
Well, if we don't, why would anyone pay?
Surprisingly, most people are law-abiding. When they get a ticket, they pay it. And across the country, our average is about 75% collection. With the economy, we've seen it go about to 65%, so we have seen a little bit of a hit. But again, a great majority of the people who do get the notices will comply and will pay the tickets.
Just going back to the tape again, I got some different info, I guess.
Sure.
Is this thing recording all the time?
It can be. So you have two functions. So
Okay.
the enforcement function, which is only triggered when a violation occurs, and that will capture the high resolution still images with the full motion video. You also have the option of enabling the video to be live streaming, so it could be running at 911 dispatch, it could be running through the engineering department, so if you can multiplex screens, we have an application to do that. So you can be watching video real time. Now if there's an accident out here on Market Street, you can dial into the camera, see the severity of the accident, and send the appropriate response. You can enable that streaming video to record 24/7. Again, your prerogative. It's not a necessity, you don't have to do that, but that camera can be enabled to record all the time, just the video, not the still images. But again, if you want the insurance policy, if there's an accident which doesn't trigger the system, you can go back and review that video. And again, it is
I just
fully
think
your
that the
discretion.
photo itself doesn't do the red light running justice
Oh, yeah.
like the video does.
Absolutely. And the video is always part of the evidence set,
Yes.
but it's a parallel path. So it doesn't affect the ability to enforce. You just have this extra capability if you choose to enable that, if that makes
Cost
sense.
related to that?
No, it's fully inclusive. You just decide, do you want to enable it or don't you? And some cities don't. Some cities frankly don't want or feel they need the recorded video. Some cities absolutely believe that, yes, this is something I want to indemnify us, God forbid something would happen, at that location. We have the opportunity to go back and have that on tape.
If it triggers the system and a violation occurs, the video will always be part of the
Yep.
evidence section.
Yep.
And how long do you guys keep the video?
At a minimum 30 days, and then it purges. So it can be on a continued, you might only want it for 72 hours and purge it. So only in the event of a serious accident, you're going to know right away. The police department can literally go to a website that we provide for them, pull up video from yesterday at noon and watch, the video and rip their own file. Oh, here's the accident. I could literally go to that site, find that tape, and actually save it yourself to your desktop. So you can save it for a day, 3 days, 30 days, and again, it purges after that period of time. Totally your discretion.
Any other questions? What does your company do to educate and inform the public? That's an important thing.
We have the, why don't you bring that
I
up
do,
while I
if
talk
you'd
about
like
that?
to.
Bring that up. What's interesting about that, we do all that up front, and what's interesting about that is I think, the largest company doing this in the industry, bring up the Ohio one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, bring up that one. In the state of Ohio, just after Labor Day, we started a public awareness campaign through the entire state of Ohio, and working with the Department of Public Safety in Arizona, they wanted us to come up with a PSA for speed enforcement for the whole state. We're doing that on a seasonal basis, so every quarter, depending on time of year, we're going to customize the messaging. So right now what we have is a back-to-school message, because obviously school just started. A lot of the communities here in Ohio are very interested in speed enforcement using that mobile speed unit in the school zones. So this particular thing that Catherine's going to show you is a PSA we're running in Ohio. We also have radio PSAs we're running.
It's time for school. Hey guys, let's go.
So 2 years ago, speeding-related fatalities overtook fatalities related to drunk driving. So obviously a great testament to the work that Matt has done. As the largest provider in this industry, we feel it's very critical to get the appropriate messaging out there, because this does reduce violations and ultimately save lives. So we spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the PR behind the program. So